Hi, Matthew. I'm Eric Krafft, CEO of Leading Edge Materials. We are a Canadian public company focused on critical raw materials in the European Union.
What better place to be, Eric, than the middle of Europe? Hey, appreciate you coming on. I think last caught up with Philip about a year or so ago. Tricky markets in terms of the equities, but the EV narrative rumbles on strong. Can you give us a bit of your background so people understand who you are?
Yeah, thanks. Very nice to be here. I'm a long-term listener of your channel. So I'm Swedish. I left Sweden when I was young. I worked internationally. About 20 years ago, I found myself living in China. I was running a dry bulk shipping business, and that was a really exciting period. It was the beginning of what we now call the commodity super cycle. I was transporting iron ore and coal, which was, of course, feeding this incredible growth over there. And anyway, since that time, I've been completely passionate and focused on investing in and running commodity-related natural resource and energy businesses.
Okay, and just going to help people understand, you're also invested. There's a friend to the platform, Daniel Major, with GoVX as well. You are participating in that as a rather large shareholder as well. So for people who know Daniel, meets Eric. Right, I need to talk about what's going on here though with Leading Edge Materials, because not much seems to have changed in the last year. I get equities are tough, but you've got to move things forward on the ground. So you've got 3 projects, small companies with lots of projects, big portfolio. You're going to get cash constraint. You therefore need to get focused. So what is the focus for you, and what's important for people to understand about what you're doing in the company?
Yeah, you're right, of course, Matthew. So a bit of background, Leading Edge Materials is a company that I got involved in about 3 years ago in 2020, and the company needed rescuing, and I was interested in the assets that they had. I became the largest shareholder of the company. We changed the board. It used to have a board with people from Australia, Canada, and many time zones away from Europe. So we put a European board in place, and we refocused how we wanted to develop the assets of the company. The board that I put in place is, we have a chairman who you might know, who's called Lars-Erik Johansson, who has a long, illustrious career from mining, top positions at very big companies such as Falconbridge, Boliden, Kinross Gold, Norra, etc. And Lars-Erik was in 2006, he was recruited by Robert Friedland to be the CEO and build Ivanhoe Mines. At that time, Ivanhoe Mines was literally one drill hole in the Congo, and Lars-Erik built that into the big company it is today. That's well on its way to being the 3rd largest copper producer shortly. So he retired from Ivanhoe Mines and 3 years ago, and came to join me with this. And he, I think, sees that the assets that we have can be developed to be really meaningful in a Swedish and European context. You mentioned Daniel Major, who's also on the board, who is the CEO of GoVX Uranium, a company I've been very intimately involved with for several years. Daniel is a mining engineer, and in my opinion, the best junior mining CEO, at least that I've come across, so something to aspire to. When we took over the company, it was a bit of a turnaround story, and we had to roll up our sleeves and get focused. The projects in Sweden we will talk more about those. So we had to relook at those, and really, I got involved as a director, and since last year I'm also the CEO, and that's really the next step of this refocusing to develop the project.
Okay, okay. Let's look at this. We'll break this down. Okay, you've got obviously the rare earths in Finland. You're also sitting on a graphite project. You're also sitting on nickel-cobalt project. So you're hitting all the big names out of the park, right? Everything that everyone wants. But when you kind of bring people like Lars Erik Johansson on board, there's an expectation that you guys have got a plan, and a plan to win, a plan to succeed, a plan to build, a plan to raise the capital to be able to do that. So I mentioned before we kind of get into talking precisely what you're doing with each of these assets is, what is the big idea? How do you move these things forward? Do you appreciate sort of where you're at? You're all big, successful guys, built big companies before, made lots of money, but do you know where you're at? It's your starting point is quite low. So how do you ensure, or how do you ensure success?
Totally, you hit the head on the nail. Relative to our size, we have 3 large projects, and the market cap is visible. So you're absolutely right about that. We actually had even a 4th project that we divested. We sold that a year and a half ago. We had a lithium project in Sweden, great prospects, but it was better to divest to not to be distracted by too many things. To how we plan to build this, so we believe in the value of our assets. Obviously, it's all about shareholder value. I'm the largest shareholder of the company myself. I'm looking out for the value of my shares at the same as for obviously everyone else. And it's about building a team of competent people. And so far we have been advancing our projects by being efficient, and we've been internally funded by insiders. And yes, you are right. We're not delusional that we think we can, with a 30 million market cap, develop $500 million projects left and right. Obviously not. So, but they are big projects. We are gonna get them developed. But when we get to that point, obviously we're gonna find the best solution to do that. And of course, raising hundreds of millions when you have a small market cap like ours, that's not the way to do it.
Well, yeah, otherwise you may as well take it private, right? So let's look at the assets, because I get it. Maybe we can unlock some of what's going on in your head talking about the assets. Can we start with rare earths first? Obviously, highly topical, critical minerals lists around the world. Trying to secure friendly providers of rare earths. So where are you at with that project? Because there's a PEA out, but how's it going to move forward?
Yeah, so the Norra Kärr deposit, as it's known, it's in central Sweden. It was discovered 100 years ago or so, and it is an absolute tier 1 world-class rare earth deposit, and the only one of its kind in Europe. It is important because it's large, 110 million tons, and it is especially richly endowed with the 2 heavy rare earth elements that are critical when you make permanent magnets. And you mentioned the PEA, which we published a year and a half ago. If we back the tape a little bit, when we took over the company, everyone understands that this is a terrific asset and so forth. But the challenge was always to get it permitted in Sweden. Permitting in Sweden has been very difficult, and so when we took over, we thought to unlock the value of this, we need to have a relook at the project with a view to how can we give this project the maximum chances to get permitted. So we did that. And that's expressed in that PEA, and we increased resource efficiency. The way the project was before, it was basically only planning to recover the rare earth elements, basically leading to 99.5% waste. So we've increased the resource efficiency to over 65% by also recovering nepheline cyanite, an industrial mineral, niobium and zirconium, and we have also removed the chemical processing off-site. So which means that then we don't need, there's no use for wet tailings on the property. We've decreased water use. We think we can decrease that to almost zero. And the way we've done it now, we feel that it is, we've really listened to all the criticism from the local people who were resisting this project. And you can say that they won in this regard, because we have looked at this, we've turned every knob and so on to make sure that it is as non-intrusive as a mining project can be. And that, coupled now with the fact that the wind has changed a lot, as you know, in Europe, if you want to put some kind of positive spin on the terrible atrocities taking place in Ukraine right now, it is perhaps that Brussels and other European countries realize that it's not a good idea to put oneself in a position of dependence on a foreign power that maybe doesn't share our Western values or geopolitical goals. And that's obvious with gas from Russia, and you know, maybe it's also with other critical metals, critical materials that we need to sustain our way of life from far away. So we see now that we have undivided support to get this developed, and that is from Brussels, it is from Stockholm, and it is from other European countries and large European companies. There's a huge effort now to develop a permanent magnet industry, both in the US, there I think it's driven more by the military industrial complex, and in Europe it's driven by large companies, especially in Germany and France, not to be dependent on Asia and far away and so forth. So we fit right into that, because if you want to build a European permanent magnet industry, the heavy rare earths, our deposit is really the only game in town. And anyway, it's a fabulous deposit. You mentioned the numbers on that PEA, which are insane. The economics of getting that developed is truly terrific. So it's really a question of permitting. And you say, yeah, nothing much has changed since you interviewed Philip. You're right. Of course, permitting things take a very long time. It's really difficult, very hard work. I spend most of my days on this issue. And it's not that much to report until you hit the milestone, and it can be long between milestones. And so right now we are doing a Natura 2000 permit application, something which at the moment is required for a project like this. That may not be a requirement next year, but we cannot count on that. So we are doing this now. Anyway, all the work that we do will be reused in the next stage of permitting anyway. And we like to do this Natura 2000 application because it gives us a way to really demonstrate the properties of the new project that we redesigned 3 years ago, because still when people talk about this project, they make the references to how it was before. And we are really proud how we have developed this and to have the, let's say, newly designed project judged on these new parameters.
Okay, let me interrupt you if I may, because the permitting process it takes a long time anywhere. Okay, and Sweden's a big, it's a good mining jurisdiction, so it's a case of you've got to go through the phases and go through that process. I understand that, but what I don't want to do is kind of skip through the kind of this. I should say the PEA numbers are, pretty good, but it's a PEA, right? You kind of got to go through those economic study phases as well. Given it was a 2021 PEA, and given the change you referenced, but one of the reasons for that, obviously, Russia-Ukraine situation, obviously COVID, supply chain issues, all those sorts of things that happen. We've seen companies look at their projects with a new set of eyes. They've said, look, it's a different world. The economics are slightly different as a result. The margins are slightly different as a result. Access to cash is different as a result. The cost of that cash is different as a result. Are you tempted with for the next economic study phase to relook at how you shape that project, given the size of it, given the numbers that you think that you can get? Would that be kind of, because I guess the thing that sort of attracted me to this conversation when it was first made that we should talk was the commercial team. There's a kind of commercial imperative about how you build stuff, how things actually get funded, not just talking about market headlines, trying to drag some attention to spurious projects which will never work. So you're in here to make money. So what are you doing about it in that sense?
Yeah. So the permitting issue, of course, is key. Without getting it permitted, one has nothing. So
let's take that. We'll park that. Let's assume you're going through the process properly, and that will happen. If it can happen, it'll happen. What about the commercial bit?
Yeah, I feel very confident about the permitting and with the project and with how sentiment and everything has changed. Now, if you want to talk about strategic projects, so designated by the European Union, I mean, the Norra Kärr project, there's nothing that ticks all of the boxes better than that does. We will, the project used to have a PFS. We will do a new PFS or go straight to FS. We will start that towards the end of this year. And I think the numbers will be even more compelling than what you mentioned. We have there's mostly positive things that have happened since the PA was published in this regard. So let's see. Of course, yes. No matter which way you turn it, to build that and develop it is going to require a lot of money, especially in relation to our market cap. So most of the money to build a project actually is for the hydrometallurgical plant, which, as I mentioned, we want to move off site. Obviously, this opens up different avenues, and could we have look at different type of partnerships for different parts of the project? The mine itself is not very costly and pretty quick to build there. We will only be mining it about 1 million tons per year. It's not that big an operation. But this is something that we will get focused on when we move forward and when we see how everything is going.
Appreciate you can't tell us everything yet, but I did want to kind of push you on that, because I think the commercial team is the impressive bit here. It's kind of like leading edge materials 2.0 for me. This is what I feel this conversation could be. Shall we jump to Romania? So here we're saying on Sweden. Can we jump to Romania? You put a press release out, and obviously it's, again, like you say, these are good projects. We talk about the headline. It talks about 30% nickel and 4.7% cobalt at your Romanian project. I mean, I didn't know we could do that. So what are we actually looking at?
Yeah. So as the lab, when we sent the assays, they called back and said, "Sorry, are you sending us ore or is it concentrate?" Because they only measure up to 30% nickel, which is what we have in the gallery wall. So to back up the tape a bit, this project was initiated well before my time, and they had this prospecting license in Romania. They had heard that there was the potential for nickel and cobalt and so forth, and in the license area, there's an old uranium mine. It was mined out and shut, depleted in 1993. Because of that uranium deposit, they have done so much exploration in the area, looking only for uranium. And it was started by the Soviets in the 50s, when they were kind of an occupying force in Romania. And after the Romanians kicked them out, then the Romanians continued. And the uranium is well known. It's well known that they found lots of other mineralization. Everything that wasn't uranium was considered a failure, as it was back then. So So we picked that up and started looking, and so we have access to lots of old documentation. We have the geologist who works on this for me is the guy who was in charge back in the 70s and 80s. So we have access to a lot of knowledge and experience, and most importantly, we have literally hundreds of kilometers of underground galleries. That's how they were exploring back then. So they would just drive these kilometers, tunnels into the mountains. The area is incredibly mineralized and well known geologically. You have kind of these big hills from the bottom of the valley to the peak of the hill. It's about 1,000 meters, and it's landscape with lots of these hills everywhere. And it's amazing when you're there, because really every hill has a story to tell. So close to us, there is, for example, the Gabriel Resources with the 20 plus billion pounds of 20 plus million ounces of gold in the ground. You have adjacent to us 2 hills. There is literally, I think, every copper roof in Vienna, Prague, and Budapest comes from that hill. You have another hill where the Austro-Hungarian Empire was rescued from bankruptcy when they found a very rich silver deposit. So, when we had the prospecting license, results were very promising. It was interesting. Then the next step is to apply for an exploration license, which is exclusive. And then the previous team got bogged down with different legal processes. We were not a party to those, but the issuing process was appealed by other parties, and it was a mess. And really, 4 or 5 years were lost in that. I started last year. I managed to resolve all of that, the legal situation, and we got the exploration license. In January, we got the permit to enter these galleries, and so we've been advancing this project really quickly since. And you mentioned the press releases, and the results are not disappointing, and I think there's plenty more to come. So because there is uranium, there's the old uranium mine there, and of course we have there's a lot of radon in some of these galleries, and we actually have a Romanian record with the highest radon reading, over 20,000 becquerel per cubic meter. That impressed some people. We have put in very nice. These pictures are on our website and on Twitter. We put a very nice ventilation system and to get that down to a safe working environment. Next thing now is we are channel sampling these gallery walls. That will be done shortly. Those assays, well, I mean, that's the same kind of value as if you're drilling, because these galleries go straight through the ore body. Everywhere you look, you have oxidized nickel and cobalt. It's all green and purple inside there. And that is very interesting. Then the last press release that you mentioned also is we've also have a base metal deposit that is completely separate from the nickel-cobalt. And there we have from the, if you read the press release, from the inside the galleries up to a trench where we have, it's the same mineralization and it's continuous, and we have very high, it's over 1 kilometer strike, and it's very high values of lead, zinc, silver. So yeah, there's a lot to look at here. And by the way, these 2 targets that we started with, we have a long list of targets on the property, and this was the 2 ones that are not even the most promising. We started with this because of administrative reasons, and so I mean there is huge reasons to be very optimistic with this exploration project.
So how do you get the funding? More targets equals more money equals more time. So you've told us about obviously project in Sweden, which kind of stands up on its own. If that's all you had, that stands up on its own. You've got this, you've got exploration licenses now, and you were sort of, on the ground looking at these galleries and so forth, and the grades are good, and it's indicative of, if these aren't even your favorite targets, it all bodes well. We can need to spend money putting data together, which is going to be of interest to the market. It's going to also inform your decision making as to how long, or if you continue to keep putting money into Romania. Do you know what I mean? And you've started one asset out already. Because you've got to manage this process from a $30 million company, which is going to, let's say, not say cash constrained in the sense that you've got access to cash, but it's the cost of that capital. You've got to have a plan for how the company, rather than just the individual assets, gets built out. Do you know what I mean? So you're starting to tell me a really interesting story about Romania, and like I say, I've read the press release from top to bottom, and it's fascinating. But how do you move it forward?
If you look in our financial statements, you will see that the money that we have deployed since we took over 3 years ago has been really well spent, and we have that in our DNA. We are as I say, I'm the largest shareholder. I eat my own cooking in this regard. There's no money wasted and all of that. So and since we took over, we have actually not done a placing of shares for the last 3 years. So show me any junior mining company that's doing what we are doing that hasn't raised money. And that, again, I'm the shareholder. I don't want to be diluted. We are super careful. Having said that, of course, it does cost money. How it's been funded to date is me and other insiders have had warrants from when we rescued the company in 2019 and 2020. We have been exercising those warrants that we thought was a prudent and responsible, non-dilutive way to fund the company. I think there is still support to keep on doing that. The money in Romania, while it's not negligible money, it is it's okay. We can manage to do that. The permitting process in Sweden that we talked about before is, of course, not free. It costs money to do that. But again, it's not 100 million that you need to build a mine. It's we are comfortable to do what we have to do. Me as a CEO, I don't even draw a salary, and I'm focused on building shareholder value for myself first and foremost.
Right. Okay. That's always comforting to hear. Any shareholders are not going to mark you down for that one, that's for sure. But at the same time, they do want to know, not just you careful arbiters of capital, and you're not destroying value that way, but it's what you're going to do with the money that you do have. That's important. And I'm just conscious, we probably just very quickly, tip our hat towards the kind of graphite project also in Sweden, and get a sense of, what's happening there and maybe where future value is there. Because again, there's a PEA out on that. So what can you tell us about where you are with the graphite project?
Yeah, so we have a built and permitted graphite mine and plant in central Sweden, and it's the only one of its kind in the European Union, one of the few in the Western world. So, of course, with the growing use of graphite in which is the anode in all lithium-ion chemistries currently, there is a projected lots more demand that has not really filtered through into the price yet, but we're hopeful that will come. Given that the mine is there and it's built, it can be put into production. I mean, to produce graphite concentrate will be pretty quick and easy and minimal capex. In theory, we can start digging graphite out of the ground there tomorrow. But as you point out, graphite concentrate is a kind of low-value product, and that's why production was stopped 8 years ago there. It was put on care and maintenance. And we have been developing a downstream active anode material business case, and that is reflected in the PEA that that you mentioned, which came out in 2021. We announced last year that we were considering a restart of concentrate production. We haven't made a decision on that, and that's really due to market conditions. So when we see market signals that give us confidence that finally the graphite demand supply dynamic plays out favorably, then that asset is quick to put into production. At the moment, we think it's a valuable asset. It's scarce. It will be even more so when all these gigafactories in Europe that are being built around us, when they go into production, then we think it's a tremendously valuable asset. But at the moment, it's we keep it on care and maintenance.
Okay, no, and that's fine. Because I care about how you make money. And and where does that come from, and the timing of that, and what are you doing from what in the case of just what have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for me in the near term? What should I, as either a current investor or a potential new investor, be thinking when I look at this? Because, like I say, it's been kind of sideways for a while now. You're there as the new CEO, okay, and you got a team of all-stars there who know what they're doing. But it needs to go somewhere. So what should I be thinking in terms of what I could be investing into with you?
Well, I think where I'm happy with as a shareholder of the company is that how we have positioned it is we have really positioned it in that it offers the most convex exposure to these energy transition metals in Europe, and as you know, the mining industry is not a quick. It takes a long time usually to go from developing something to when you have a cash flow, and I think at the price point where the company is valued now, that of course function of liquidity in general, and us having kept perhaps a too low profile for a long time, we've been more focused on operational things and advancing the projects, but I think the value proposition here and the way we are positioning this and the way that these projects are going to get developed, I think the upside is awesome. But there is obviously zero revenues at the moment, and developing this is gonna cost money.
Eric Krafft, thank you very much for your time today. I'm interested in how you're going to move these forward. Interested in what you said today. Stay in touch with us and let us know how you get on, okay?
Thank you.